Welcome to Talk of the District. My name is Marguerite Reinberger. Despite the cuts that the district has undergone and will continue to undergo, one thing that they are strong in definitely continuing, and that is the Vision 2014 and now 2020. I have two guests here, well knowledgeable in that area. I have Assistant Superintendent Ray Queener, Superintendent Corey Lunn, and they're going to tell us more about the Vision 2014, where we're at on that. And also, I'd like to know how the lack of extra funding has impacted that, and then get into 2020. So I'll begin with either one of you.
Well, maybe I can start by answering a question I get asked a lot of. Why do you have a strategic plan?
Right.
Successful organizations have goals, they have a focus, they have mission and vision. And one way that distinguishes an organization that's a strategic plan, which doesn't, is it's really easy for companies to talk about what they do and how they do it. But what really is not as common, that's found in very successful companies, is why do you do those things? So I think for us, the strategic plan focuses on the why do we do it, and then the how and the what. So it really leads a roadmap to some innovative practices that dramatically change what we do, with accountability, results, measurements, and those kind of things.
That I really look forward to.
And then you can prove and show those things, whether it's test scores or how you're spending your dollars or what you're trying to accomplish. There's a framework there. So, I always say, well, what if you don't have a strategic plan and everybody's on the same page? Everybody's kind of working on their own, and maybe haphazardly people get to the right place. Our job is too important not to make a difference for kids and have us all on the same page. Now that doesn't mean that Ray might take a little different path and I might take this path, but we're all focused on the same vision, the same goal, and that's focus on kids.
Would I be correct to say, Corey, that you turn it from rhetoric into realism?
That's part of the process.
Okay.
Yep. And it's funny, you begin with a real creative process of what schools need to be, and then it gets to a real detailed process to make sure those things happen.
Vision 2014 was started when, and where are we at right now?
Started about 3 years ago, so we're in year 3 officially, completing year 3. We're moving to year 4 of the plan.
Now, some would ask, and I'm going to stop Ray real quick. Why are you at 2014 when we're in 2012 right now?
We accomplished objectives that were identified early.
Well, we got one more year, don't forget.
Yep.
Next year, 12, 13.
You won't rest on your laurels.
No.
So it's coming due at the beginning of 2014.
And it's been an evolution. There's different strategic planning models out there, and Vision 2014 was comprised of a couple of different hybrid models. And we're really shifting the focus to a Cambridge strategic planning model. And
wait, now you're going to explain that in detail.
Yep, it's a process. It starts with an engagement of your community into what they want to see their schools be, and narrows that down to
Whom are you seeking the input from?
Hopefully, up to 100 people will start the process this summer.
Do you hand select them, or hope that? Because I worry sometimes when you hand select, you're picking people and you want to hear what what they say is similar to yours, but no?
It's probably both.
Okay.
There are probably people that, as we've done in other community engagement processes, that we know have been actively engaged in the school district, both on the supportive and not so supportive side of things, to hear a broad spectrum of different viewpoints from the community. With 100 opportunities, 100 spots, if you will, there'll be a lot of opportunity for volunteers that maybe aren't hand-selected, if you will. But it's important to get a vast component of our community, so that we're hearing from all different segments of both municipalities and cities, and we represent 18 towns and townships, and we need to have representation all across the district.
How many years have you been with the school district?
I'm completing my 9th.
9. Has it always been this way, where you're outreaching to get all kinds of different input?
In different forms and fashions. Nothing like this model has been done here. Vision 2014 was created with a wide segment of internal constituents, and so a lot of staff, principals, the administrative team, working a lot with the board, but it wasn't a full-fledged community engagement process. There was opportunities for the community to be engaged, to provide feedback on the strategies and the objectives that we were trying to accomplish. But this is really a different approach. You start with the community engagement process first. You narrow it down to a strategic planning team that spends, actually their first task is to spend 3 days starting from scratch, developing a mission.
Did you say days?
3 days.
Not hours.
3 days.
Okay.
Developing the mission, the vision, beliefs, and it's, again, a whole process that they go through. But at the end of those 3 days, they come out with strategies that will be the work for Vision 2020 as we look to the future.
At what point do you say, you know what, these strategies might not work? We've got to adapt.
That's part of the process. The process that Ray is alluding to is really a proven, research-based best practice approach. Experts have done it across schools.
I gather this is Cambridge,
businesses.
Massachusetts. Okay,
Yeah, so that's kind of nice to use a proven
Yeah.
method. And as Ray has talked about, it really involves a lot of community engagement. And we're going to go through the whole process
Yeah.
here shortly. But every spring, there's a process where the group comes back and asks that very question. So even though you use a lot of creativity to set the vision, and then it becomes prescriptive of what you do for measurement and accountability, there's several stop measures or places where you say, well, things have changed the last 8 months.
Right.
How do we need to change? How do we do things? So it's dynamic at the same time.
What kind of factors can make these changes occur?
It can vary. As I've said here before, the legislature controls so much what we do. So a legislative session could have a significant impact on a direction the school district is focusing on. Economic conditions can change. So it has to be flexible enough to adapt to those changes. But the key part of it is that it's focused. It is a focused direction of where you're going. It's putting the stake out in the ground 5 years from the time you adopt it, and everyone's working towards that goal. Probably the most interesting thing about the Cambridge model is it allows you, through this focused direction, to really look at everything that you're doing, and those things that aren't helping you achieve that goal 5 years from now, they call it strategic abandonment. So
I like that word.
you have the ability then to say, this isn't getting us to where we need to go, so we're going to stop doing this, and or we're going to change it so that it does align with the direction we're going. And as we've talked about here, as the money guy, resources are tight, and it's important to be able to stay focused and on path to that goal, because you can't do everything.
When did those alignments take place? When are the measurements? How do you know, whoa, you know what, this isn't working?
It really is a funnel approach. So the strategic planning team starts with the big, broad mission and vision. Once they come up with strategies, there is a action planning team that comes together, and they really start to build out tactics of what specific tactics are going to be engaged, and those are what's measured. So you have the ability to say, we're going to do this tactic, and you can measure when it's completed, what are the benchmarks that you're using to measure those progresses. And then what's really great about it is this is all open to the public. So your plan is on the website. People can check in and say, how is this moving forward? Where is this at? What are the costs associated with these things? So the public can really stay engaged throughout the whole process. We will, but we don't have to always report how the progress is going, quarterly updates or annual updates. They can watch
those
it
updates.
as
Yeah, that's good. I know, we want this. 2014, we're in our final year. So you're happy with how that's come out in spite of what happened in November? Still feel good at how this whole thing turned out?
Like we've talked about, it's really given us a clear vision of where we want to go, and it really has clear, defined roles for us of how we're going to get there. It adds a nice piece, so I know what Ray's goals are, and he knows what mine are, and there's a step where there's some mutual commitments where we have to talk about what I have to do to support Ray and vice versa. I think underlying the whole process, we wish there was more community engagement from the get-go, and that's what we're most excited about. We have a chance now to start with day one with a focus on the community. And you've heard me say this before. I believe strongly that before you ask the community for resources, you got to ask them what they think the school should look like.
Right.
And that's what this process will do. It's going to involve a lot of community folks. It's community driven. The product's going to be from the community. It's going to be a clear vision, really stretching us of what the schools need to look like for this community, not other communities. What's it mean for Stillwater? And the people involved are part of that process. And to answer your question earlier, who's on these groups? Well, it's some of both. I feel really good. The last year, we've intentionally involved some folks that maybe aren't supporters. Number one, it pushed us a little bit and changed our perspective, but number two, it educated them and changed their perspective as well. And we've had some of those folks on the show. But again, there's a kind of prescriptive plan where they tell you you can't have too big of a group. Research shows 25 to 30 is about all you can do. So you have clergy people, you have staff members, you have administrators, you have parents, you have senior citizens, you have students. They give us that list, and then we try to generate folks that would be good for this process. Not necessarily supporters or naysayers, but you have to be strategic thinkers. So that, I've been through this process, and in that group too, not only represents themselves, but we give them a lot of data that the community has given. We've done surveys that we've done, and then there's a separate community engagement process of 100 and some folks, and they do some activities.
Different ones?
Yep, different ones, and they bring that data too, using the same rationale. It's not, hey, all parents, do you want to come to this? No, we break it down. So there's some good data there, and plus it goes to the board, it's shared, there's chances to get feedback and develop the model. So the first year is really a deep year. And then once it's established, then there's checkpoints that happen every year for the next 5 years.
For clarity, we're talking, so they know, we're talking Vision 2014, soon we'll talk Vision 2020, we're talking the Cambridge model. When we're talking right now, the Cambridge model, has that already been utilized in the Vision 2014? Has it been utilized all this time?
Components of it.
Components of it, got it. For the whole 2020, all of it? Got it.
It's probably a hybrid plan right now.
Okay.
What we really liked about 2014 is it had that clear vision and focus, but it didn't have the components, the measuring,
I agree with that.
the funnel things. So
Right.
one of the things we did this year with Ray's help, and Ray's been trained, and I've been trained as well previous to coming here, is we added the things we really liked about the Cambridge model into the current model. But next year we have a chance to do it as it's meant to be.
Sure.
Which Ray alluded to is a lot more community focus.
Right.
I think the other thing, just to expand on community too, when we say community, it is a wide range of stakeholders.
Yeah.
So it
As
does
well it
cover,
should be, right.
It's not just community members, but it does include members of the organization, staff members from all employee
Municipalities.
groups. It includes some administrators. It's not heavily dominated, and the community members themselves. So it very similar to the Budget Adjustment Advisory Committee concept that we had. About half of that committee was staff and half were community residents. But it's important to have those kind of stakeholder involvement, and that's where you get the rich conversation and discussion.
Things you hadn't even thought about or heard, nothing. I'm sure it's very, very helpful.
It's a great process.
Enlightening would probably be the nice word on that, right?
It pushes everybody. It's a great process. It focuses folks, and it's
So
good result.
2014, when do we put that to bed?
At the end of next year.
Okay.
So next year we're putting the bed.
You mean next school year, or
Yep.
so they know? Okay, school
we-
year. So in
we have
June 2013, right?
Yep.
Okay.
We have action plans for next year, which we intentionally did early to make sure they're done. And those things are happening behind the scenes, but then at the same time now we're developing the new process for the future.
And that's 2020. Why so many years? Is it always a 6-year?
Well, it could end up being 2018, 2019,
Okay.
or 2020. When the group does its work, we'll determine how far out. I think for now 2020 has a nice ring to it, so we're using that. But in the end, it could be 2018, it could be 2019.
Okay, tell me what we're at on 2020.
Okay, well here kind
It's-
of explains the process. You can see there's a lot of steps. The first step is we need a board awareness session, because of course the school board needs to understand the steps, their role, what the expectations are. And then this is what Ray and I have been talking about. Over the summer we have 2 community engagement sessions of 50 to 100 community members. Again, those are folks we seek out that represent parts of our community. Similar to the survey we did, the scientific survey, if 10% of your community is X, you want to use X amount of people. So that's going to be taking place all summer, and that's people are working in groups, they're using clickers, they're developing some really specific feedback to go to the planning group. We need to make sure community understands the process and staff, and then this building team, then this is the 25 to 30 community members that will begin late summer. It's actually going to be in the fall. They're going to take the information from the engagement sessions. They're going to take the information of numerous other surveys the school district has done, and they're going to not only use that data, but again, they're going to be picked purposefully to represent the community and the viewpoint they bring. And this community is going to talk about vision, mission, measures.
That's good, Corey, because I'd hate to see them have to be forced to that they get input too.
Yeah.
Not forced to
Yeah,
use
it's
other
kind
groups.
of a dual process,
Okay.
and they've really evolved the process to include a lot more community engagement things, because part of the problem was people were coming in with their own ideas, and then did they really represent the community? Because you would love to involve 300 people, but that's not very effective. Then we hold some planning sessions. We train action team leaders, because the planning committee will say, we believe you need to do A, B, C, D, and E. Okay, then the action team leaders take over A, B, C, D, E, and then they can involve some community members, and they develop these plans, and then they come back to the planning team on the second session and says, is this what you were talking about? Are we on target? And the planning group can accept them, they can deny them, or they can accept them with some changes or alterations. So these are the checkpoints I'm talking about. Present it to the board, then develop the plan to implement it, then the board approves it, then the mutual commitments and expectations. That's now the people that implement the plan talk about how they work together. If Ray's working on B, then as a superintendent, I need to help him with B1, B2, B3.
Sure.
It's a synergy that goes on. So this is year one. So then the next year you implement it. Every spring you bring a group back like this to say, are you still on track?
A new group, same group?
Nope. So you try to make
Okay.
it components of the same group, but you're are we still on track? Are we still pure to the mission? What's changed? What's different for next year? So even though you set the strategic direction for 5 years, the action plans happen a year at a time,
Yeah.
so you don't get too far ahead of yourself for things that might change. So I've gone through this as a staff member. It is a energizing process, it's a detailed process, and what I like the best is it starts with the community, because we are here to work for the community and represent the community. And if we want the community to support us, we need to listen to them and put those things in play. Now, that doesn't mean our role isn't to say, well, we're the educational professions, here's what we're hearing.
Right.
Similar to when you go to your doctor and you're going to have a surgery, your doctor is going to come in and give you options and talk about things that are on the surgery forefront. But I would not tell my doctor how to do the surgery. So there's that nice synergy that goes on between those two groups. And usually we all come out more educated, more supportive, better understanding of what we're trying to do together.
When you have staff mixed in with community members, don't they often defer to the expertise of the staff? Or in that, I was wondering if
That
that's
can
problematic.
happen, you think that might happen, but it doesn't. I'm thinking of the process Ray led. People felt very comfortable. Expectations are set out. The process is set about such that everybody has a lot of input.
Okay.
So, there's a facilitator who's trained, who's done this many, many times that comes in. Because if I were to do it, there'd be more of that.
Sure.
But since you have a neutral person that designs activities to break that down, you usually don't see that.
What's the most important part, Ray, based on your training? All of it equally?
The first phase. That really sets the direction
Sure.
for the whole plan. This is the development of the district plan, and once all of the mission, vision, strategies, and action plans are done, all for the district plan, it then shifts to the building level, to the schools. And they go through kind of a smaller process than what the large district plan is, but each one of those is a supporting block for what the district strategic plan is. So it's really an organizational-wide practice or process to go through. So everything is supporting and directing that overall district mission.
What are the negatives, if any, on the Cambridge model? Have you heard? Researched?
I have not. I've not heard. it's founded on the basis that organizations have to continually grow and reinvent themselves. You've heard you can't be in neutral. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. And this really focuses you on setting the direction. It helps you abandon those things that may not be supporting that direction. And it gives you a pinpoint focus of where you're headed. And everything that's done is for the purposes of that strategic plan.
In the end, what is this Vision 2020? What do you want? In the end, what do you want? Do you want better graduation rates? I mean, there's got to be some end goal.
Well, I think what we want is we want to engage the community in the process of
Okay.
what they want their schools to
I
be
see.
like. And it's hard.
So it's an ongoing.
I think we could guess things the community values,
Yeah.
and we could share them, but we would not want to do
No,
that.
I wouldn't want you to.
To make the process pure. And to answer your question about what is the negative of this process, if you haven't done a strategic plan before, and you're used to being an independent contractor and working on your own, that's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in that role. I was a principal. We never
Sure.
had any direction. We did great things in our building, but now we have to connect things together.
Right.
But the other thing I like is Ray kind of alluded to. We have a district vision. The school sites connect to the vision, and to go furthermore, our goals are tied to the vision, and our performance and appraisal is tied to the
Boy,
vision.
there's a lot of accountability.
You know,
isn't there,
that,
on
you know,
that?
we talked early in the show what people know and what they don't. Many of our employee groups got no automatic raises last year. But some of them have now a performance component like you see outside the education world, and that's tied to this plan. So the community says, we want to see X. School buildings, how are you going to make X happen? How does Corey make X happen? And Corey is appraised, and any performance raises are based on how I do X. So you see how all that works together, starting with the community, and how different that has been in past models where Corey's working on Y, Ray's working on Z, the community values A.
Let's say you work with the community and a lot of great input, and you're moving along, and you ask for another levy, and that goes down.
Well, that's kind of the strategic abandonment piece that Ray
What,
is
dump
talking
those
about,
people? Dump their input?
No, the problem with schools is, and Ray says this all the time, is we try to do everything for every person. And what this does is says, this is what the community wants us to do. So now if we build a program or we reduce a program, this becomes our core belief. If it doesn't meet the things the community has told us is important, then that's lower on the list of what you save. If you're building and it meets those things, those are the first things you look to add to. So it really provides a focus and a criteria that leads our work.
Boy, that's scary. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a high.
It is. But again, the non-scary part, those people told us that's what they value.
The other part of it is that your strategic plan is always your plan. That's where you want to be going. And if there are components that have resources connected to them, it may control the speed at which you can accomplish your strategic plan. It doesn't change what the end point is, maybe just how fast you can get there.
Good point.
And that's part of the components where you can set the stake in the ground 5 years from now, say this is the direction we want to go, here's what it's going to take to get there, and then the community can weigh in if the question's asked, is this really where you want to go, and here are the resources we need to accomplish this task. It doesn't change where you want to go, though. Your direction is still your direction. Otherwise, you'd be bouncing around all over the place, and you can't do that.
Right.
That's a great point. If it doesn't stretch you, it's not strategic.
Right.
So it could be something that it's even hard or difficult to obtain, but you get to 80% of it.
Yeah.
But it's
But no
pushing you.
stagnation.
No,
No
or the other
stagnation.
thing that happens is, you go find other resources. We talked in an earlier show about the STEM program, science, technology, engineering, math. We could only do that because we went out and found 3 partners.
Yeah.
That's not using district money to do that. But because it was in our strategic plan, we went out, we focused on that. We weren't asking for 10 things, we were asking for help with the STEM plan. So how you use your resources is key,
Creativity
timelines are key,
major.
and all that stuff is part of the process.
Isn't it? You have had to reinvent, get very, very creative, given the environment of multiple factors and that. You've seen that you've seen it through your
Well,
districts.
That's
The various
that's
districts you've worked in.
If there is a silver lining to this kind of process,
Yeah.
it is that it challenge you to think differently, to find efficiencies, to divert resources to what's important. Now we'll know, and be creative. And we've done all those things, and I think people will see more evidence of that next year.
I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you while I have you here. What financial situation are we in, the district? Is it as dire as some of us were led to believe, during the fall?
It is.
Okay.
I think when we talked about the information in the fall, we had laid out some criteria of what the assumptions were, and some of those assumptions came in positive, but it is a crystal ball. It's something you have to look to the future. One of the things we just did this past spring is we brought in some additional people to take a look at our forecast model, because we're looking out now to the end of 2013-14 school year. So June 30, 2014, we have to project, or trying to project, where we think the district's going to be in financially. There's a lot of things that can happen, and we articulated some assumptions and we put them on paper. We presented it to the community and to the board and said, based on these, here's the range of where we think we're going to be looking at in 2014. Now, we've also been very aggressive this year. We've looked at everything. We've made some really bold moves in terms of hiring freezes, looking at efficiencies. And so we're really doing everything we can to protect the resources we have, because we know the legislature is going to be faced with a huge challenge in 2013, looking probably at another $1 billion deficit. And we're going to have to try to do what we can to take care of what we're responsible for, because looking outside, especially at the legislature, they're going to have some tough challenges.
In your career in finance, have you ever seen it this bad?
No.
What you see coming too?
No.
You see no rainbow at the end, do you?
Eventually something's going to have to change. And it's going to be, there's no silver bullet.
Yeah.
It's not one solution. It's going to have to be organizations becoming more efficient, more creative, to do those types of things that you can. But eventually, you're going to have some additional resources from the legislature or your local communities.
Well,
you can't keep going down this path.
What I find, as you say, the vision stays the same. How we get there, the timing at it may change, but the vision, and I guess adapting, of course, to external factors, change, what is it called, abandonment, things like that. You have a final chance to say anything you want.
Well, I think my message this spring has been, we have some challenges, but we have tremendous people and programs in our school district, and we're being very creative to minimize the impact of those reductions. Yet the other message is we can't depend on the legislature anymore. We have to rally as a community, decide what we believe, what we're going to support, and come together, because I would argue for a whole nother show that strong communities and strong schools go hand in hand.
So you're basically asking the community not to abandon the school
There you
district.
go.
Is that
And we
about
won't
right?
abandon them. We're together.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us.